Good
No,
evening. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our special open board meeting on the 14th of March. Welcome. I'd like to start by recognizing and acknowledging both the Esquimalt and Songhees nations on whose traditional territories we live, we learn, and we do our work. I wonder if we might have someone move approval of the agenda. Thank you, Trustee Bayo, seconded by Trustee Kwan. Any changes or amendments to the agenda? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of the agenda? And that is unanimous. Thank you, trustees. All right, so we're moving right into our Budget Advisory Committee 2023-24 annual budget recommendations. So I'm going to turn the floor over to our Secretary Treasurer, Katrina Stride.
And I am in turn going to pass it over to Trustee Gagnon.
thank you, Secretary Treasurer Stride. Good evening, everybody. My name is Derek Gagnon. I'm a trustee on the board. As many of you may know, I'm also the chair of the Budget Advisory Committee for the 2023-2024 budget year. Before I summarize what the committee's actions were over the past few months, I'd just like to thank everybody who's participated in our meetings over this last little while. We received invaluable contributions and presentations from parents, teachers, principals, vice principals, staff, administrators, members of the public. All of you have helped shape the decision-making process of the committee and the board. So thank you all. Thank you for your effort. Thank you for giving up evenings and for sacrificing time with your loved ones. It's been a collaborative effort and one of positive interactions working towards the common goal of what is in the best interest of our students. For those who are not familiar and maybe didn't take part in the Budget Advisory Committee, the composition of the committee consists of all 9 trustees: the superintendent, the secretary treasurer, deputy superintendent, associate superintendent, associate secretary treasurer, director of finance, facilities, indigenous education. There are principals, vice principals, representatives of the GVTA, QP Local 947 and Local 382, the Allied Specialist Association, BC PAC. There's a lot of voices at the table, and rightly so. The first committee meeting for this budget year occurred back on November 10th, which was the day after most of us were sworn in. And we jumped into the deep end right off the bat. There have been a total of 7 committee meetings. And if you're interested in seeing the minutes for those or the agendas, they're available on the school district's website on the financial page. Throughout these meetings, we've seen and heard of terrific work being done around the district, both at the admin level as well as in the individual schools by our great staff. And we've seen the passion of various advocates trying to put the student experience first. And we've had the opportunity to ask many questions to, as a board and as a committee, help make educated decisions. Of course, we're not limiting our exposure to just those on the committee, as the district also hosted the Talking Tables event for rights holders and stakeholders in January, followed by a student symposium to capture the voices of those who don't get their voice heard by the board as often as some of the other interest groups. We then hosted a town hall 1 week ago in which further community feedback was gathered. Finally, for those who have yet to have an opportunity to express their opinions in any of those forums, we are still collecting public feedback until March 17th, which is this Friday. So if you're looking to have your voice heard, I encourage you to email community@sd61.bc.ca because we do want to hear from you. Tonight, we will not be deciding on anything as a board. What we will be doing is making those decisions on April 4th and April 6th when we have our special open board meetings. What we are doing tonight is presenting the committee's findings to the board. And the committee did not reach consensus on how to proceed. So it is being recommended by the committee that the board consider the Slido that will be presented tonight, along with the minutes from the committee meetings, as well as the community event reports to inform its decision-making. I'll close with further thanks to everyone who has contributed this far and to those who still will. It's a collaborative process. It's a difficult process, but it's one that it's easier when we all work together. Thanks. And I guess I'll throw it back to the Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just add a little bit to that great summary. Over the several meetings that we've had with the Budget Advisory Committee, we've covered off a lot of different topics. We started off providing information to the committee around important things like values and guiding principles around the budget process, the committee's terms of reference, also things specific to the budget, like the budget process itself, why the April deadline is important, and also a budget orientation. So we started off with that, and then we started to work through some of the topics that were of interest to the committee. And those included music, custodial services, mental health, Indigenous learners, funding for Indigenous students and allocations to schools, and also student participation. And so over the past 8 meetings, I guess it's been, we've come back, we've presented topics, we've done small group discussions, we've brought topics back for further discussion and large groups. And in the end, we looked at all of the questions that we had asked of our rights holders and stakeholders, of the public, of various parties who participated in this process with us, and came up with 10 questions that we asked at the committee to see if, after all that collaboration, if we were able to come to consensus on any of the topics that the committee found that were important. And so in the agenda package, you will see on March 9th, our last meeting, that we went through a process using a software program called Slido to do some polling questions. And it was an interesting process. So those who wanted to participate, I believe we had up to 22 people voting. And we put the questions forward, and the responses were kept hidden until that everyone had voted, and then we revealed the responses. So you can see, I'll read through the questions that were asked, but you can see the results in the agenda package. As Trustee Gagnon mentioned, we did not reach consensus on any of the questions that were asked, and the Budget Advisory Committee is either making recommendations to the board via consensus, or if consensus is not reached, providing differing views. So these slides will show you what the differing views were and how many votes were for each one. So on page 7 of your agenda package, the first question that we asked was, if there is an unrestricted operating surplus available at the end of 2022-2023, would you support the surplus being used to offset the budget deficit in 2023-2024? So this is actually one of the questions that reached majority. So that means more than 50% said to use all of it. And then there were votes for the other options as well. Question number 2, we looked at the contingency. So the question was, how would you plan to use the unrestricted operating surplus contingency of 1.2 million currently held by the district? And the response to this question is like the opposite of consensus. So you could see that 1 vote for don't use it, but the rest were split evenly across. So it was quite interesting as a process to go through this with the committee to see where we were at. And I know for myself, some of the responses I was surprised because I thought that we might have been closer to consensus than we actually were. And on others, it was the opposite. So question 3, we looked at what option would you choose for elementary strings? Again, quite a varied response on that one. No majority reached. Question number 4 was, what option would you choose for middle school music? And again, there were 3 options selected. None of them had reached majority, definitely not consensus there. Question number 5, what option would you choose for student devices? And this one did reach majority, reduce ratio to 3.1. So our current ratio is 2.1. So we put an option out there to reduce the investment required for student devices. Question number 6, what option would you choose for educator laptops? And there was definitely a majority on this one. The fully fund was 1 million, which had 2 votes, and partially fund at 700,000 had 19 votes. Question number 7, what option would you choose for year 3 of the 5-year network infrastructure plan? This one also reached majority. Fully fund at 618,000 had 80% of the votes. And question number 8, would you support spending 164,000 to top up EAs to 30 hours per week at another 5 priority schools? This one did reach majority as well, 85% saying yes. Question number 9 looked at what option would you choose for custodial services? This one had quite a varied response. There were also quite a few options. No majority reached and definitely no consensus there. And question number 10, which was the last question, would you support doubling the 48,000 budget for mental health initiatives? And an 85% response said yes on that one. And I do have a list of all of those majority ones, but as mentioned, consensus is what we were looking for. But I think having that information in the slides is helpful for trustees to see, even just in our committee, how varied our response was, even after having several discussions on these particular topics. I don't think I have anything more to add to that, but perhaps there are questions from either attendees here. I guess it has to be that. Yeah, or any.
Yeah, thank you so much to both Trustee Gagnon for your service to the board and chairing the committee, and to Secretary Treasurer Stride for all your hard work and the hard work of your team. Certainly definitely was a collaborative effort to keep coming with these very well articulated, detailed pack-ups every week. So thank you so much for that. Yeah, just want to open the floor to folks who might have some questions. Or some comments. Doesn't have to be a question, could also be a comment, or just amusing some of the things that we're thinking about moving forward. Trustee Painter, you can kick us off.
Well, thank you, Chair. To the Secretary Treasurer, with respect to the all the departments told me that we received summaries for staffing and budget. I don't think I saw. I'm not sure if it would be called the Superintendents Department or the Senior Leadership Team, and I was just wondering if that was rolled in somewhere and I just overlooked it, or what the situation is.
Thank you, Trustee Painter. Go ahead, Secretary Treasurer.
Okay, thank you. Yes, it's not buried in any of the other reports. We looked at the more operational departments that were within the school district, and we certainly could provide department profiles. It's slightly different perspective than some of the other departments, such as IT and HR and financial services, in the way that we support students. But that information is available if that's something that you would like to see. We also, we also, in the interest of time, because we were trying, I think in previous years, what we had done is presentations by all of the departments and then questions. And so the committee had asked that this year we take a slightly different approach and provide these department profiles in advance of the meeting so that committee members could read and then have short presentations by the departments with an opportunity really to have a discussion and questions and answers. So, you know, if there are particular questions around the, I guess it'd be the Secretary Treasurer's office, the Superintendent's and Associate Superintendent's office, we're certainly willing to answer them. I don't know if I'd have the questions right in this moment, but we can definitely get them to you.
Thank you very much. I just, it's pretty easy for me to work out the staffing side of the office. You're not a large office in that respect, but it's my recollection that in the past, and you know, I realize it might be a different approach this year, that the superintendent's office ended up managing a number of different budget items. I think legal might have been covered out of the superintendent's office at one time. So I was more interested in what elements go into the budget or the expenses, if that's the term we're using. Thank you.
So is that information, Secretary Treasurer, that could be sent?
Yeah, we can definitely put that together. Like the Trustee Painter, in the packages, there's the budget sheets. We could provide that for those departments. And just for your information, legal services falls under Secretary Treasurer's office. But I hear your point.
Assistant Secretary Treasurer Lettner, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Thank you. For tonight, I can provide you with a really quick overview of the programs that are included. Would that help, Trustee Painter?
I have to admit, I don't absorb a ton. You give me great information, but somewhere between writing it down and listening intently, I don't necessarily absorb it all that well.
Fair enough. No, so we can definitely provide that for you. I just brought up the department profile, so I thought I could list off just for your own sake for tonight, but we'll definitely provide the detailed sheets for you then.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Trustee Kwan, go ahead. Yeah, the floor is yours.
I'm going to ask if Julie doesn't mind actually presenting some of that information. I would love to hear it, and would love to have the follow-up documentation afterwards too, but I'd love to hear a little bit about what you have to say.
Yeah, I suspected as much. Yeah, okay, wonderful. Yeah, so go ahead. Thank you so much for offering.
Okay, so included in the superintendent's budget is the Office of the Superintendent, which includes 2.0 FTE, and then some office supplies. And under that also is the Freedom of Information Office with a small budget for miscellaneous items, about $2,000. There's also communications, which falls under that with FTE 2.0. And then lastly is the Parent Advisory Committee, which is a budget of about $12,500.
Thank you very much. Okay, so folks, again, this is our opportunity, or one of the opportunities we have to ask questions about some of the discussions and various recommendations and perspectives coming from our Budget Advisory Committee. So yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome to just let me know if you would like to ask anything or if you have any comments. And if not, I can certainly move us along in our agenda to the question period portion. Yeah, and just once again, say thank you to everybody. It was a pleasure to sit on the committee this year, and yeah, to be able to work collaboratively with everybody and to see so many stakeholders around our table was, yeah, a real privilege. So just a last call for anybody that would like to ask a question or has a comment. Yeah, hi, welcome. Nice to see you.
My little hand isn't working.
Not to worry. The floor is yours.
I actually just have a statement to read on behalf of VCPAC. If we can just have that also in the minutes, included in the minutes. So on behalf of VCPAC, we want to thank the district for the opportunity to participate in this process. VCPAC has learned a lot from this experience, and this will help us in our ongoing role as advocates for students and families. VCPAC still holds the strong belief that all cuts should be as far away from students and classrooms as possible. We also wish to remind trustees that their obligation is to all students in the district, especially those that have learning challenges and disabilities and are part of a protected group as part of the BC Human Rights Code, the School Act, and other pieces of legislation that our district must adhere to. If the choice is made by trustees to approve cuts to our students, VCPAC expects that the cuts will be made as equitably as possible. VCPAC would like it noted that there has been considerable discussion about the music options that the district has recommended. VCPAC submitted a document that can be found in the March 13th Board of Education meeting agenda packet that details our feedback on each of the various options. If trustees approve any of these options, it's our expectation that district staff, working alongside the GVTA and the LSA, will provide more details about how these options will work. Currently, all that has been supplied with respect to these options are broad and general ideas. VCPAC would like it noted that the LSA was not formally consulted by the district in the development of these options. This means there is much work left to be done to see how these options can be developed and implemented for our students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you raising your hand and just unmuting and letting me know. I certainly wouldn't want to miss you. So thanks so much. We really appreciated your participation around our table. Okay, folks, I believe I saw Trustee Painter's hand up as well. So Trustee Painter, go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And just to follow on the trend of my last request, Secretary Treasurer, you mentioned that legal, for example, falls under Secretary Treasurer's office. Would it be possible to get a rundown of those programs?
Thank you, Trustee Painter.
Are you looking for like Julie to do a rundown this evening or just to receive those sheets?
Well, as soon as I asked to receive the sheets, other people who can absorb information more quickly asked to hear it. So I thought I'd just jump to cut to the chase and ask to hear it.
Okay. Julie, do you have that one handy? Okay.
Whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Great. Okay, sorry, I'm just opening it up. Okay, included under the Secretary Treasurer's budget is the Board of Trustees. So 9 FTE as well as some conference and meetings, membership fee, and some smaller little items. This past year was the elections that fell under the Secretary Treasurer's budget. And then lastly, the Secretary Treasurer's budget itself. So that is 2.0 FTE. And then there's the audit in there of about 30,000. Legal, which at the preliminary budget was about, last year was about 250,000. There was $100,000 in bank service charges. And then just some smaller office type things. that's the Secretary Treasurer's budget.
Thank you very much. All right, folks. Just want to bring us back to anyone that might have some additional questions, comments that they want to contribute this evening. Yeah, Trustee McNally and then Trustee Kwan.
Thanks, Chair. It's a terrifically mundane question. At the end of the document, it's suggested that trustees discuss, all the options and input that we've received before trying hard to reach consensus on a final budget document. And I'm just wondering when we're going to do that. Thinking about more trustee meetings so that we can really get down to some of these suggestions and I guess try harder to reach consensus or close to it. So that I'm asking the chair if you envision anything like that, because I'm still feeling pretty chaotic about what I have some ideas, but I think we need more meetings.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I know we're gonna talk about next steps before we adjourn, but just in terms of trustee opportunities to collaborate, we actually just had an agenda planning meeting earlier this evening and discussed some of the options around trustees just through a shared document, having an opportunity to consider some different ideas, ask questions, get clarification, and really do some thinking and some work collaboratively together over the break. And so we're hoping that opportunity will support that work to take place over the break leading up to those important budget decisions that we'll be making at the board table at the beginning of April. So we're going to try that. And then, we're, of course, as always, we may need to rethink how we do that. We may need to schedule another meeting and we'll do that as and when we determine that we need it. So there's certainly flexibility. We can call a special meeting if we need to. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at in terms of the opportunities for trustees to kind of collaborate over the break and consider all of the impacts and what other information we might need and so on.
Thank you, Chair. I feel somewhat reassured.
Yeah, good. We're going to try it, and then you can let us know whether you think it worked well. Trustee Kwan, go ahead.
And I didn't have a question so much as a comment. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank everyone who sat on this budget advisory committee and really made the effort to attend meetings. It was actually my pleasure to really collaborate with all of you and to really listen to what you had to say and some differing perspectives that I really appreciated. And I think really I got a chance to really hear every single person on this budget advisory committee, and just wanted to say what a pleasure and what a great opportunity it was to chat with everyone and really collaborate in this process. So thanks.
Thank you, Trustee Kwan. Great. Just want to hold space for anyone else that might want to say anything or ask any questions. And then if not, if we're ready, then we can move on, and I will ask the Secretary Treasurer, if you don't mind, just to map out next steps before we go into question period. I'm not seeing any other hands. Let me know if I've missed you. Just feel free to unmute and say, wait a second, Chair. Okay. All right. So Secretary Treasurer, would you mind just mapping out the next steps?
Do we have any? Do we know?
Absolutely. So given what your comments just were around perhaps some brainstorming with trustees, we're going to take all of the information that we've received from the Budget Advisory Committee, and including the feedback from rights holders, stakeholders, and the public. And the plan is to present a balanced budget on April 4th, looking for either a first reading or first and second reading, depending on what's presented, and then we take that then to April 6th, a couple of days later, and looking for either the second and third or the third reading of the budget. So there's, as mentioned, there's quite a few things that will be happening between now and then. We get our funding announcement tomorrow, and then we'll see where that leaves us with the structural deficit. And Julie has work to do to just finalize that. And then we will look to see where we're at and what steps we need to take to have a balanced budget. So that's what we're looking at, and we're grateful for the trustees' input and all of the stakeholders as well as we move forward in that process.
Thank you very much. All right, so if there are no final questions or comments, then I'm going to move us on to the question period portion of our agenda. I just wonder if we've received anything. Hi, Lisa. Nice to see you.
Hi. One second. Opening it.
You're on mute, Lisa.
Okay. I think there was a question period portion. There are no questions in question period.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for confirming. I appreciate that. Okay, folks, so that leads us to our last item on the agenda, which is adjournment. May I have a mover to adjourn? Thank you, Trustee Kwan, seconded by Trustee McNally. All those in favor? And that